New York has been the state hardest hit by COVID-19, and it was also battered on Monday by bad weather. Healthcare workers had to contend with heavy rain and high winds at this emergency tent facility in Central Park. And they were not the only ones weathering a storm. In Washington, US President Donald Trump faced criticism over his handling of the crisis. At his daily press briefing, the president surprised journalists with what some are calling a propaganda video defending his response.
Well, we've asked them to accelerate whatever they're doing in terms of a vaccine.
Then he went on the offensive.
Remember this, everything we did, I was criticized because I was too early. If I waited longer, it would have been, you would have been criticized. If I went way early, if I went 3 months earlier, I would have been criticized for being way too early. I think I've educated a lot of people as to the press, and I would love to be able to say that we have a very honest press.
Trump said his administration was finalizing a plan to reopen the US economy. When questioned on who would decide on relaxing lockdown rules, Trump said he would be calling the shots.
It's a decision for the President of the United States. Now, with that being said, we're going to work with the states because it's very important.
Several state governors on the east and west coasts are discussing the best way to open their economies and ease stay-at-home orders. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo seemed to suggest he thought it should be largely up to individual states, not the president.
He left it to the states to close down, and that was a state-by-state decision. Without any guidance, really, he took the position that it was a state's decision, and then the states were responsible for purchasing supplies, etc.
With infection numbers in New York beginning to plateau, the calls to loosen the lockdown are getting louder. But the road back to normalcy will be a long one.
To tell us more, I'm joined by DW correspondent Oliver Zalet in Washington, D.C. Oliver, as we saw, Trump defended his response to the coronavirus reaction. What did you make of what he said?
Well, this is one of those press conferences, Claire, to be remembered, a highly unusual press conference with a very, very angry President Trump lashing out against his critics, against the media. He also insulted journalists in the room. You just heard his soundbite there. So really strongly trying to defend himself. And it was a very special moment in that press conference when the White House showed a campaign-style video where they actually defended the handling, President Trump's handling of that pandemic. And this is one of those videos that you would actually see on a campaign rally, but not on a government press conference, of course. So it really shows that President Trump got under pressure. U.S. networks later called that video a propaganda video. And that happened after Anthony Fauci, President Trump's leading expert in infectious diseases, indirectly criticized President Trump, saying that many lives could have been saved if the government had acted earlier.
That's right. There's been some controversy surrounding Trump's response to Dr. Anthony Fauci. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Right, and that controversy began after those Fauci remarks that I just mentioned. And today, President Trump retweeted a tweet where someone called for firing Anthony Fauci. And then there were additional media reports that Trump was actually planning to do exactly that, firing his coronavirus expert, which he then later rejected as fake news. So big controversy here leading up to that press conference. Later, Anthony Fauci was trying to put that into perspective. In that press conference, he said he had a bad choice of words. He also said that Trump acted when he told him to with regards to the shutdown, of course, but with regards to the important assessment that he made, that lives could have been saved had the government acted earlier, he stayed on message, and it is a very serious situation for Trump. You can see that in his response as well. The election here in the United States is coming up, and President Trump really got on the defensive.
So as we've seen that back and forth between Fauci and Trump, can you tell us how the situation in the United States has been developing?
All right, so there's another debate right now going on, and that is about when to reopen and who's in charge of reopening the economy. Is it the governors? Is it the presidents? So a total of 9 U.S. states is now trying to organize themselves, trying to lift those stay-at-home orders. New York is one of them. They have seen a dip in hospitalizations over the last days, but Andrew Cuomo, New York's governor, is stressing that the situation is still very bad. That there are 2,000 new cases every day and that you have to be very careful when reopening the economy, warning about a backlash.
Correspondent Oliver Zalet in Washington, thank you very much.